I'm just going to share my screen real quick because I have a little slideshow. So what I currently do is I'm a marketing and creator partnerships rep for 1824, which is a division of Universal Music Group. So it's a bunch of college students. There's about 80 of us, and we are all at different colleges across the country. And I'm also an artist manager of a dream pop artist called Dreams We've Had. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about Syracuse University and the opportunities that have come from here. I'm in the Bandier program, which is a music industry program specifically. We take around 30 kids a year, so it's very, very tight-knit, and there's a lot of connections and opportunities there. And within the program, we are allowed to go to Billboard Touring Conference and South by Southwest every year, and some other organizations on campus that I've been involved in are WRW Radio, which is an independent station on campus, and University Union, which is the student programming board. And we put on different concerts every year. Nice. So I kind of want to talk about like through my years at school and kind of the different roadblocks that I hit through having to balance class and everything. My freshman year, I kind of came into the industry not knowing anything. When I got into my program, a lot of people were talking about A&R, and I had kind of no idea what that was. And I started panicking because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And my program offers a weekly lecture series where we have people from the industry come and talk to us. And one week we had Halsey's product manager at the time, and it completely changed my life. I left that lecture. I called my mom crying. I was like, I figured out what I want to do, and I wanted to do marketing at a record label. So that's what I set out to do. And I kind of hit my lowest low at the end of freshman year because I was attempting to get an internship. Since my program, we need to have 3 internships before we graduate. And I applied to about 40 or 41, and I didn't get anything until I worked at Entercom, which was not exactly what I wanted to do since I wanted to do record label marketing. So I worked at Entercom, which is a bunch of radio stations in New York City. I did some writing for them. That year I also went to South by Southwest and Billboard Touring Conference. And over that summer that I worked at Entercom, my program director emailed us and said that there was an opening for Universal Music Group's marketing rep on campus, and I applied so quickly. I wanted it so bad, and luckily I was able to get the job, which I started my sophomore year. So this was a huge transition for me because I already was taking a lot of classes, trying to get everything in so that I could go abroad and not have to worry about getting credits in and not having to overwhelm myself later on. So it was a lot to get adjusted to, especially having a job that you work 20 hours a week and it's very new. And this year, I ended up going to my program director almost needing to stop doing U Music Experience, which is the college program. And I was so nervous because I didn't know how to balance anything. And eventually I figured it out, all good there. And this is the year I started picking up a lot of things. So I started working for University Union, and we put on Show with Khalid. And this also after that sophomore year and into that summer, I started interning at 300 Entertainment, where I learned more about marketing and applying a lot of the things that my music industry classes were teaching me at school. And I also started managing a dream pop artist named Dreams We've Had, which I ended up finding my freshman year when I was working at WRW Radio. So that kind of brings us into junior year. I ended up booking my first show over that summer in New York City, which I thought was really cool. And then my team at Universal completely rebranded into a team named 1824, and that definitely evolved me as a young person in the industry. I had to learn how to do a lot more things. And this is also the year that I got to take record labels and publishers as a class, as well as social media marketing, which definitely helped. And my professor was amazing. He helped us with everything. We had to make different marketing decks, and it really was very hands-on, and it totally carried into everything that I was doing. And then I started really involving other orgs on campus with 1824. So I held a screening with University Union for the Motown documentary. I worked with the JBL reps here to throw a tailgate for Emotional Oranges, and really started getting more involved and really getting used to the balance a bit, even though it did get overwhelming. And now that we move into senior year and everything has changed, obviously, because of COVID, everything's been virtual and we've been picking up a lot more work. And I have to say this year has been the hardest to try and balance school and everything, especially since I'm taking a capstone class right now. And luckily I'm able to do it on the artist that I manage. So I have been getting a lot of help and direction from the director of my program, which has been amazing. And I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of different projects within UMG. We did a lot of task force and ideation for the academic, Devin Gilfillian, Cash Page, and Kid Brunswick, which has taken up a lot of time. And then I also did a panel with the Bandier program of a bunch of Syracuse alumni and Lewis the Child, where we kind of talked about how label teams interact with each other and the artist as well as the manager. But overall, I really needed to learn this year that self-care is super important and time management, because I definitely was slipping a bit in both school and work in earlier years. But this year, like I picked up like knitting and different things, and that's definitely helped. So that's kind of me, and I'll throw it back to you guys.
Hello, I'm back. Thank you, Lauren. Snaps for self-care and snaps for Lauren as a whole. But it's always important to make sure you keep that self-care in there. Anyone in the audience, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them in our Q&A, or you can put them in the comment section. Cecilia Nielsen has a question in our Q&A for Lauren. Lauren, can you talk a little bit more about finding your first artist and how you approach formalizing that first management contract?
Yeah, so I found them my freshman year, and it was just something I couldn't forget about after I listened to one song. And I would talk to my friends about it, and there was a lot of different managers and people starting things in my program, so I could definitely reach out to them and start being like, okay, how did you start? And finally, sophomore year, I kind of felt that I was a bit more qualified to take on that position, because I tend to get imposter syndrome a lot, and I feel like I shouldn't be doing things. But I ended up DMing him on Instagram and was just like, hey, I'm down to help. We jumped on a phone call, and by the end of it, he was like, do you want to be my manager? And that was great. And ever since then, we've been working together, and it's been really awesome. So yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions if anyone has, feel free to throw them in the Q&A and chat, and we will get to them at the end. Or if you have any questions for Chris, who is our next presenter, you can drop them in, and we'll get to them at the end of his presentation. So without further ado, let me present to you Chris Emond. Chris Emond, studying at New York University, and is now joining us now live from Los Angeles, sunny Los Angeles. Take it away, Chris.
How you guys doing? I'm Chris Emond, but Emond is fine. We'll work with it. But I'm 19. As is said, I go to NYU. I'm a music business student. And here, I'll just share my screen real quick. Yeah, so primarily, my main lane of business right now is I run and I founded OL Records, which is an indie music company right before I went into college. And we're ran by and for youth, but kind of underlying the fact that we're a record label, right? We have a long scale plan, and that plan is to build up San Jose, California and the greater South Bay as a cultural center for youth primarily. And how did I get my start in that regard was, music's my passion, and I'm an artist before anything else. But I really saw that like in this new form of industry, in this new changing industry, finding ways to support artists who are independent and very brand oriented and doing something super unique in their own city nationwide. I think that's so important. And why not bring that to San Jose, which is such a budding city and has so much capital there as well. So of course, like an integral part of that is our independent venues. And so my experience prior to COVID was that I kind of booked and played at multiple venues throughout San Jose and in New York. But kind of the main thing is we do throw an annual music festival. So I'll just go here right now and let that kind of play in the background as we go. But the first kind of festival we threw was a year ago. And it was literally me and my team of like 3 or 4 people. And we were like running around juggling booking, promotion, location. I was performing at the event, ticketing. And it was like, it ended up being 3 days before the event that we had sold something like 200 tickets. And the venue pulled out on us because of a contract dispute. But the thing about that is I feel like as a student and as a kid with, you know, doing everything DIY, which I think is so important, especially as an independent artist, like doing things yourself and figuring your way out of a situation in debt, which we were in a lot of debt afterwards. That opens doors because now the next time you approach a situation, you're so apt and you're able to have that real world experience. And, you know, the feeling that you get after finishing an event like that, like all by yourself and with a small team, is so gratifying and warm. And that's the feeling that you get when you go to all these independent small venues. Nothing against larger corporate run venues and arenas and stuff like that, but there's something so different and so unique. And that's why we're all here at Independent Venue Week, right? So on top of that, I kind of, after COVID started, I really wanted to find a way to help and push out OL further as a company that really has their small businesses of the greater San Jose community, that we have good ties with them and that we really want to support them. And so why am I here as a student? And I'd say that's because I took advantage of specific connections. And so like, that's, I think, so important as a student, learning how to really be able to leverage your connections. For example, like when I began the company, it was a lot of cold sending out emails to people who were, you know, whoever I could find to do a service for. And so one of the services I did, like I really wanted to exchange a service for possibly a connection or a job in the future. And so one thing I did was film. And so I kind of shoot MIDI documentaries on camcorders and we shoot ads. Here's an ad I just did for Splice, as well as, you know, collector's edition DVDs, trying to do very unique stuff with our artists. Animations, some people on our team did animations for separate things. So we kind of, as these young kids and young students, I think you need to take a roundabout turn, because if you're sending out emails to people cold, they don't know who you are, it's very hard to, and I've learned this through my own experience, they don't care, right? Because there's nothing to hold on to and they don't have any real reason to reply to you and give you something that's, you know, tangible. So how we did that was to get those connections, then we would offer someone something first. Here's how I can help you. I can shoot a music video for you. I can shoot a music video for your artist. We can create, especially now in this video-driven world, how can I create content for your artists? Get yourself in the door then. So now you have the opportunity to fulfill and push your agenda further and try and, you know, get a job in a certain department or go the roundabout way. And so being a student, though, there's that extra element, which your teachers, you know, how your professors, the older peers in your program, how can you leverage that in a different way that might not be the most normal, you know? And so why am I here? Moose actually spoke at a collegium, which is our weekly forum that we have at NYU. I reached out to him because I again had that interest in supporting independent venues. And I said, how can I help in San Jose? This is what I think. We both share the idea that it's so important to keep these alive. And so now we put together a plan with the local promoters in the area. I'm meeting tomorrow again to kind of keep the plan going. We're meeting with multiple promoters and venue owners and talent buyers in the area. And as youth and as running this youth brand, which is, it's more of a brand than a record label, what can we do to prove to community leaders, council members, Congress in the area, what the people that are going to vote for you in the future, they have social capital and they're really interested in fulfilling this idea of getting funding for local venues. So artists, when they release new music, we have them now put in a connection so that you're signing up for our mailing list. That'll give you information about the Preservation Society in the area, which is stopping the condemnation of multiple properties such as the Western Appliance sign, which we modeled our our sign here after our logo. The Burbank Theater in the area, multiple independent venues. We also are collaborating with numerous clothing brands in the area and doing prints and using some of the funds from those sales to go towards supporting independent venues as well. And yeah, I think one last example before I wrap up is Kenny. So Kenny is an artist that, we started working with. I found Kenny through Instagram because, I was really interested in the way that, like I said, he's an artist like myself who we take advantage of everything that we have, and we're independent, pushing very hard with our own branding. And so I reached out on Instagram. Kenny got back to me, and since then we've just been working like every day to try and work towards this goal. And so the goals are kind of coming to fruit, right? It's been definitely a long process, but now Kenny is finally seeing some fruits of his labor, and a label approached us. So Kenny's actually right here. Kenny, you want to come?
Sure.
Kenny, pop in and say what's up.
That's good.
Yeah. So one thing was super crazy was when I was a freshman. Yeah, go ahead, take a seat. When I was a freshman, Larry Miller, the head of our program, he came to us and he said, read this major label contract. It was like 50 pages, like ridiculousness. And we went through, and I, as a freshman, I just read, jotted down notes on every single part that I didn't understand or I felt that could be negative. Went to Larry, said, what can I do to change this? Why is this way? For example, like controlled compositions, which BMG actually recently nixed down. Super important in that regard. So then fast forward 2 years, we're working so hard in this department, and then we get this deal memo from this label that Kenny's been interested in. And we go through together yesterday, and yeah, I mean, we kind of just went off each other, like read it to each other. We kind of deciphered the jargon. And then I went back to Larry, and I also went to Judy Tint, who's another in our program. She's a lawyer, a great lawyer in New York. And I said, look, I understand that you guys are very connected and you have great connections. But I'm not looking for a lawyer who's going to be the best. I'm looking for the lawyer who's going to be very scrappy like us, who's going to be very interested in working their way towards the top and is interested in developing acts. And they both put me in contact with fantastic lawyers. And so now we have the opportunity. And then Kenny also leveraged his own connections and went through family members, friends he knew in the industry, and found a lawyer who did work on Rihanna's contract with Roc Nation, who's also going to help us out with his contract. So yeah, that's basically the extent. And I think it's very important to work with things like NEVA, because this is the future. And we have to figure out a way to navigate in a COVID world, a COVID or non-COVID world. But the thing is I think we're going to be very prepared, because being independent and already having to scrap your way through it, it's just a new thing to scrap through. So yeah, that's all from me.
Namaste.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Snaps for Chris. We have a question in our Q&A for Chris. Chris, true, it's a video-driven world, not just video, as we're used to thinking about music videos, but many new formats and platforms. Can you share how you work or don't work with new video formats and younger social media video-driven platforms?
TikTok. Man, dude. We are so like at ends.
So you get the camera.
Yeah, get the camera. So I myself, I'm such an old school type of person for some reason. I guess I got like old soul or something, because I'm really I always wanted to go back and go back in time. And so I shoot on all camcorders and XL1. This is my camera. And so I always want, even in my music and everything, I always wanted to not force people, but make people really want to stay for that entire extent. of the video and not have to reduce everything to you need to cut your hooks to the front beginning of the song and it's a 30-second song and you have to fund everything to TikTok and push people. It's like I want it to be substantive and genuine no matter what we do. But that being said, I am opening my mind, and TikTok is obviously an integral part of my industry. And I'm not going to be someone who's going to be a Luddite in that regard. So Kenny and I have been trying to show the part of it because we're also just college kids like enjoying ourselves. So what we do now is we reduce these longer videos. We shoot like full documentaries whenever we're together on the XL1, and they end up being 15 minutes. And then we'll cut those down to 15-second increments, post on socials, post on TikTok, and then supplement those along with, just videos of us on our phone, like posting on the story whenever we're doing things. Trying to show that element as like, yeah, we're real people. We don't want to ever show that kind of I'm a label plant. That's never what we want to do. So yeah, if I have any advice, it would be to just be genuine in what you do and don't try and make something for TikTok. Make something that is great and has a great storyline and tells your brand story correctly, and then kind of morph it into something that 15 seconds would grab people's attention, and then filter in from TikTok to your next form, which would be, is that your website? Is that your social? Is that your music? Is that your artist page on Spotify? Be creative, be unique, and that's what I got.
I love that. I love that so much. Does that thing shoot on tape?
It does. Yesterday I realized I'm out of tape, and we had shot everything so we're actually up in San Jose right now, and we had moved. We were just in LA at Nerd Studio, and I was like, I'm out of tape. So we had to go back to San Jose from Aptos, sprint home, grab a tape deck from this local camera store. And they're like, because they don't exist anymore, right? These are like gold. And they're like, I have one in the drawer. I called them. They said, I had one in the drawer. Could you come here and check it out? So I plopped it in the camera. It ended up having some ladies, like an hour of hers from Italy, like her trip from Italy in 2006. So we just overrode it and did it. But yeah.
That's much cooler than my quick hunt for SD cards.
Yeah.
All right, so snaps for Chris. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to pass it off to our final presenter for the evening. Well, I guess it's not really the evening. Depends where you are. For her, it's the evening. This is Zarrin alum studying the Berklee College of Music, and she is joining us all the way from Spain. Zarrin, floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Zarrin. As Bobby mentioned, I'm a master's candidate at Berklee College of Music, based out of Spain. So I actually worked in event ticketing and live music for about 4 years. I really enjoyed it. I worked with over 1,800 different types of live events, from music to museums to even dance studios. So I got like a very well-rounded experience about live events. But I was really wanting to understand and explore more about the music industry as a whole. So that's why I decided to go to college again and kind of get a more focused degree in music. So while at ETICS, I Moose runs Independent Music Week, Independent Venue Week, as well as NEBA. We work with a lot of the same venues, and he actually came down to Raleigh to moderate a panel that I hosted with the Chicago Independent Venues League. So after that, I really enjoyed working with Moose and was really inspired by the amazing work he's doing with live music. And that kind of inspired me to bring that spirit into what I'm doing with all my projects outside of my classes right now. So since coming to Berklee, I've actually been doing a few different projects, both live related and unrelated to live, just kind of building up my skills and also just getting more experience in the industry outside of my classes. So just starting with what I've been doing within the school, I actually work closely with a lot of the other programs. That includes contemporary performance and music production. A lot of these students are also artists, and they're so focused on the music, they don't understand like how to brand themselves as artists or just do marketing in general. So I kind of wanted to create that opportunity and help them figure out how to be an artist, especially right now without any live music, and kind of figuring out how to kind of launch themselves. So I created a marketing consultancy project with a few of my classmates where we kind of offer artist branding, really strategizing, digital marketing, just to help them out and help them kind of launch themselves while like working. So this has been really helpful, kind of understanding how the music world works right now, and not just in live, but also in recording, and how to be an artist right now. So getting that experience, I can actually build out these strategies, help them out, and also figure out how to incorporate live music later on as they get bigger and bigger outside of the Berklee bubble. Besides that, I'm also attending every webinar, every conference just like this, to kind of meet new people, get on panels and learn more about the music world. There's a lot more out there. There's different ways people do live now, like incorporating VR, incorporating AI. So it's very interesting, and you also get to get introduced to all these new companies that could be new opportunities for yourself. So there's always something new every week that I've been attending, which has been really fun. But outside of Berklee, I've been also interning with Dayglow Ventures. It's Peter Shapiro's promoter company, legendary Grateful Dead promoter. If anyone's a jam band or a Grateful Dead head out there, it's been really fun, especially because he's been doing all these live streams just through all of his venues all over the US. So I've been helping with doing these live streams in each of these venues, as well as doing a lot of research and writing copy. So in this kind of area, like everyone's been kind of worried about how they're going to continue doing music, how they're going to go from a live concert to in a new COVID world, how they're going to transition. So it's been kind of cool to see from behind the scenes how they're able to do that and how they're able to keep these audiences engaged and everything. So I've been actually working on a Tedeschi Trucks project right now, helping create this new live stream from scratch, figuring out how to do this from a venue format to a live stream format, and making it a huge deal. So it's been kind of fun being able to do live music in a different way right now. Besides that, I'm also working at a marketing agency as an account coordinator, helping create fan engagement strategies for different artists. I've worked with Bibi Rexha's new single, Baby I'm Jealous, if anyone's heard that, Roman Duddy, and Portugal the Man. It's been really cool working with these artists, kind of managing their release strategies as well as these marketing campaigns, because I get to utilize different skills like in digital marketing, paid ads, social media, how to engage people on digital platforms, if not in person. It's kind of outside of the realm of live music, but these skills are super important right now because everything is more digital, and I can build up all these skills and experience as I'm at home or not being able to go anywhere. It's something that I can transfer into the live music world as well, where if I have to do a marketing campaign, I have all these ideas that I can put in place already, as well as just building up these experiences and opportunities that will help me out later on when I graduate. So this has been what I've been doing as I've been taking classes, and it's been really helpful because I'm taking something that I'm learning and kind of in a more realistic sense, as well as kind of bringing in new opportunities for myself. So kind of setting myself up to for the real world by engaging in these kind of experiences and learning how to get a job from all of it. So it's been really interesting going from having a full-time job to going back into school and being an intern. But now I kind of understand what I can do now that I didn't do what I did in my undergrad. It's been very fun, and I recommend anyone who's thinking about taking a graduate program doing it at Berklee, because you're exposed to so many more opportunities here.
All right, many hats for Zarrin. Snaps for many hats. We do have one question here. If anyone has a question for Zarrin or any of our presenters today, feel free to drop them off in the Q&A or in the chat, and we will answer them. Here's a question. What's one thing, according to you, artists should focus on given the current times?
I think they should focus on figuring out their artist identity. As I'm like working with so many different people, not in just business, different artists as well. They seem kind of almost scared of social media right now because they have to figure out what to post and what to write that will engage people. But it's really about authenticity and just like valuing it as a platform to reach people and not just something you have to do. So that's something that I feel like artists need to focus on more, especially just because that's where people are right now.
I'd love to pop in on that. I assume you're here because you're an independent artist, but like make a mistake socially on your social media. Like try things, try different campaigns, put out a lot of different varied content. Try finding your own lane, because I think there's a lot of people who are really interested in following someone, whether or not you're an artist, if they're putting out content that's really eye-grabbing and catching, unique. So find out who you are first. What do you do as an artist that makes you unique from other artists, and capitalize on that and make content that drives that narrative every day. And of course, as Zarrin said as well, be genuine and just do what you feel is right. Don't try and conform to some other lane.
Yeah, I definitely agree because especially if you have a smaller following, this is a time to experiment. You can see what works and what doesn't. And it's not just about like just pleasing people, it's about pleasing yourself as well and what you're doing.
Awesome. If anyone has any last minute questions, get them in now. I'll stall for a few seconds. I do want to thank all of our students for joining today and giving us a brief glimpse into how the heck they're balancing everything they're doing outside of their classwork. When I was a student, I couldn't remember any time where I wasn't sleeping or doing homework. So if that's it for the questions, let me hit you with the outro. Oh, we do have a question. Good timing. What do you think the live industry will look like by the end of your school year? For Zarrin. It's a question for Zarrin, but anyone can answer.
Oh, I think all of us could answer that one. I think, I'm in a different world almost than being in the US because the area I'm in hasn't been as hit as hard. So I've actually been to a few shows here and there, just seeing it like, it's just sitting socially distanced, which is interesting. So I think if we can get our shit together, excuse my language, I think we're heading towards kind of like a better like area for live music. The US, I think there's a lot of opportunity with the drive-in shows and as people are making live streams better, I think that's going to be the way we go for right now. I think that's what a lot of venues have to embrace, unfortunately, but there's a lot of opportunity to do that right now. I think it's still a little bit weird about in person, as long as they can do protocols as like safely as possible.
Reach out and start a coalition. Just start connecting with everyone, and go to your local venue. Ask them if you can perform and do a live stream that'll drive some what's the word? Traffic. Drive some traffic to their website. Drive some traffic to sell them merch and their food sales. Just do anything you can. Partner with local venues to have a day where you just show up and try and get your following to pull up and buy a t-shirt or buy food. Get really creative. And I think just before I shut up is I think there's a really big opportunity now. Everyone's focusing on what we're doing during COVID. COVID isn't going to last forever. One thing about humanity is that we need live music and we need to be out in the open enjoying music with other people, so it'll come back. You want to position yourself right now. We have the best opportunity in the world. Spend this next year, 2 years that we have to not do anything and just focus super hard on positioning yourself to be that person who starts the next festival, who starts the next thing that's going to come right out and hit everyone in the face with like, oh my God, how did they do that during COVID? And then it comes out and everyone is talking about your event. So be creative.
For me, I've kind of just been focusing a lot on just artist to fan connection. Obviously, like live shows, not a thing. So, and I've noticed even like with the Billie Eilish live stream, when they're partnering with like merch companies to make this really cool interactive merch room where it feels like you're there. Obviously, like my artist is still on the small end, so we've been really focusing on like, okay, maybe some people just don't want to sit and see a structured set. And he is someone that is really good at like playing with synths and doing all that stuff. So we're like, why don't we get on Twitch and just vibe out for a while, and people can pop in and talk. And he's always in the DMs, like talking with fans. And I think that that's really important too, like especially with people in isolation right now. They're not having like their family and friends around all the time, and they connect with music, and then they can connect to your artist directly. So I think it's really important to make sure, like, obviously, if you're setting up your brand, you're positioning yourself well, but making those connections with fans, because you never know, like those are going to be the people that are at your show first, and you don't want to lose people like by not talking to them during this time.
Wow, amazing answers. We have a hand up in the attendees. It's Cecilia. Cecilia, put her hand down. Never mind. All right, any last minute questions? Get them in now. Thank you so much for coming. No worries. And all right, so thank you to everyone for joining us for this session. And a special thank you to all these amazing students. They clearly have amazing careers ahead of them, amazing careers starting now, just outside their classwork. Thank you for joining us, and thank everyone for joining us for this discussion.